Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. That Glengarry apartment fire has one man searching for permanent housing. He's been displaced twice in the past 2 years due to situations out of his control. Plus, experts are reporting a major decrease in monarch butterfly populations. We speak with an advocate about what that means for the black and orange insect that migrates through our region. And Valentine's Day gifts can come in many different forms. One group is hoping to serenade your loved one while raising money for charity. Residents displaced by the apartment fire on Glengarry Avenue are finding new homes today. Some permanent, others temporary. Tonight we hear from the man who says it was his unit that caught fire and from another tenant who's been through this before. The CBC's Jacob Barker has more.
My apartment was the first one to go up in flames. Then it just spread from there.
Gary Allard spent 3 days in hospital for smoke inhalation, he says, following the blaze. His unit at 333 Glengarry Avenue caught fire last Thursday. While he escaped with one of his dogs from the fire, the second did not get out.
I lost him in the smoke, and he passed away.
Allard says he lived in the building for 4 years, but would not be set up in a new place.
They said they don't have anything for me through housing, and I don't know what I'm going to do. So I only have him now, and we need a place to live. So any help will be much appreciated.
The Community Housing Corporation says there is only one client of theirs not receiving housing, but wouldn't say why. Instead, they say a plan was made with that former tenant to move to a shelter. Allard says that he can't stay at the downtown shelters as they don't accept pets.
This is the second time I've been through this.
Jared Leffler is another tenant of the 8th floor that escaped 333 Glengarry Ave with his 2 dogs through the smoky hallways.
And I couldn't even see across the hall.
He hasn't been back to his apartment since. Up until yesterday, he was sleeping at a shelter at the WFCU Center, waiting for a more permanent solution.
I know the city's working their hardest, but a lot of us, there's a lot of unknowns.
The situation is reminiscent of November 2022, when the heat and electricity stopped working at 1616 Olette Avenue.
But this was 6 days. Last time it was 30, so I could do 6.
That time he stayed at an emergency shelter set up by the Red Cross. This time around, he says that city staff and Red Cross did a fantastic job at the shelter, taking care of him and his dogs.
I told the Red Cross guy, I love you, but I never want to see you again.
When we spoke with him, Leffler was getting ready to move into an apartment at 395 Glengarry, right next door to 333, but he was concerned about how he was going to get by now.
I just spent $132 on food the other day because everybody gets their check and they buy their food for the month. Now we got no food. I got no bed. I got nothing.
Residents on floors 1 through 6 have been able to return, but floors 7 and 8 remain vacated. Community Housing says that they hope to have residents back in their apartments on the 8th floor by Friday. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
A Windsor man is among 13 people arrested in a sex trafficking sting in Niagara. Niagara Regional Police launched a project targeting those who use the internet to solicit sexual services from minors. The sting operation involved multiple police units setting up at a Niagara Falls hotel. The 13 suspects are all male, ranging in age from 20 to 60. The Windsor man is 33. All have been charged with luring a child for sex, obtaining sexual services from a person under 18, and sexual exploitation of a young person. The names of the accused have not been released. Windsor police have charged an 81-year-old with defrauding a local charity of more than $360,000. The Financial Crimes Unit started its investigation in August of last year. They received a report that a one-time board member at a non-for-profit organization stole a large amount of money. Police did not disclose the name of the charity. Investigators say they discovered the accused deposited more than $362,000 into their personal bank account. That money was intended for the charity. Police say this all happened between 2011 and 2023. The person has been charged with fraud over $5,000, laundering the proceeds of a crime, and possession of property obtained by a crime. Now, on any single day, more than 2,000 people are working on the Gordie Howe International Bridge site, ports of entry, and the Michigan interchange. Around 42% of the workforce are local to Windsor and Detroit, but there are also workers brought in from around the world, like Ireland, Italy, Lebanon, India, and more. The bridge has been under construction since 2018. It's scheduled to open in September of next year. Tonight, we're going to meet Tracy Robinson. She's an apprentice from the region with Iron Workers Local 700. Robinson is responsible for the cable stays at the top of the towers and spends her day high in the sky.
It's called P6 because it's over 600 feet, and it's a lot of fun up there. When the wind blows, because it's a lot windier up there, it just shakes a little bit, but it's so cool. I absolutely love it. Like, you just go to the edge and you could look down and you see the little people way at the ground, and the cars look like mini cars, and I can see my house from where I am working. And it's just a lot of fun, and I'm not scared because I know I'm tied off. I make sure I'm safe in that way, but I just really enjoy the heights.
Valentine's gifts can come in many different forms: chocolate, flowers, maybe even some jewelry. But it can also come in the form of 4 really well-dressed gentlemen with beautiful voices. A barbershop quartet is traveling across our region to serenade loved ones. Dale Molnar caught up with the members of the Essex Vocal Express, who charge $45 to impress your loved one.
Andrea, we'd like to present you with this rose as a special token for Valentine's Day. Heart of my heart, I love you. Life would be naught without you.
Tom Grimes. I'm the course manager and the VP for Outreach, which is where the funds go to. The Essex Vocal Express is the chorus, and then from that chorus we're sending 2 out this year to go do singing Valentines in the county and the city. This is a fundraiser for the outreach program of our chapter, which used to be called Youth in Harmony, and with those funds we help reach out to the students and the music educators in the school system to kind of expose them to barbershop and encourage them to get involved with it. We go out and we do workshops with the students.
Why do you do this?
Why do I do it? Because it's good for you, for one thing, and boy, we make a lot of people happy.
What's it like doing Valentine singing for people on Valentine's Day?
It's great. The smiles on their faces when we show up, and it's an enjoyable day. We are around and we just have a great time.
Let me call you sweetheart, I'm in love with you. It's Eric Best. I'm president for 2024 of the Essex Vocal Express. As the Windsor chapter of the Society for the Preservation and Encouragement of Barbershop Quartet Singing in America, otherwise known as SPEBS-QSA. Well, initially when I first started, I found it very therapeutic from a very stressful job, that I would go into it with a migraine and I would come out of the rehearsal without one.
Here's a special Valentine's card for you. We hope you have a great Valentine's Day.
Thank you.
Let me call you sweetheart, I'm in love with you.
Although that was beautiful, a barbershop quartet maybe isn't everyone's idea of romance, or perhaps Valentine's Day really isn't your vibe. Well, there's an event starting right now at the Windsor Public Library Central Branch that might be for you. Their anti-Valentine's Day focuses on friendship instead of romance. They're hosting a speed friending event. The event is open to anyone ages 18 to 35. Some grim statistics on the monarch butterfly population as it winters over in Mexico. Just 9 colonies of monarchs were located this winter season, covering less than 1 hectare of land. To help out these numbers into perspective, CBC Windsor reached out to Monarch Watch, an education, conservation, and research program based at the University of Kansas.
This year, the overwintering population was the second lowest on record. So they've been recording the size of the population since, I think, 1993. So it was a 59% decline from the size last year. So that's also notable because given the time frame that they've recorded the size, there's only a handful of years where there's been a drop that's been close to that. A big decline in the size of the population. So thinking about what it might look like this spring and summer, probably within the next month or so, we'll know a little bit more when monarchs reach Texas, and depending on what weather conditions look like in the southern region where they're having that first generation, so where the returning monarchs are laying their eggs, that'll give us a much better idea if conditions are really good and there's a large first generation that could really help a lot. If conditions aren't good, that could introduce some more challenges.
A Windsor man is being recognized by the Children's Aid Society for his work supporting Windsor's Black, African, Canadian, and Caribbean youth. Born in Zimbabwe, he's made it his mission to shine light on children from underprivileged backgrounds. He's also a poet involved in a show coming to the Capitol Theatre with a group called Black Kids in Action. Here's a clip of that uplifting chat with Windsor Morning host Amy Dodge.
Because we all know that to educate a child is to create the most beautiful magic in the world. To educate a black child is even one step further, because most of these kids grow up in a system that tells them that they are not worth what other kids are worth. So to invest in children is to invest in a beauty that is waiting. I grew up in poverty so intense, but then I had people that made me believe that the world is not in actual physical money or whatever, but that the world is what they instill in me. That the world is what I believe in myself, that the world is in my faith and my belief that I will be something someday.
Being Black in Canada, a space for news, documentaries, arts, and more. Celebrating Black people and their stories. Find everything from interviews, insights, Black culture, and conversations. Visit cbc.ca/beingblack-in-Canada.
A Michigan man who is known for co-creating a popular toaster pastry has died. William Post came up with Pop-Tarts, died at the age of 96 on Saturday. He was raised in Grand Rapids. Pop-Tarts first debuted in 1964 in Cleveland, Ohio. The toaster pastry was originally sold in 4 flavors: strawberry, blueberry, brown sugar, cinnamon, and apple currant, before it was released nationwide. Turning to some national news now, the federal government seems to have backtracked on its plans for road infrastructure. 2 days ago, the environment minister said his government had decided to stop investing in new road infrastructure. But today, in response to blowback from the premiers, he said he should have been more specific. David Thurton explains.
The home of a new proposed Ontario highway, but it's unclear if the federal government will help fund such projects. Guilbeault spoke at this event Monday where, according to a newspaper, he said, "Our government has made the decision to stop investing in new road infrastructure. There will be no more envelopes from the federal government to enlarge the road network." The blowback was quick and intense.
Anyone who thinks that you can stop building roads has obviously not traveled outside of Montreal very much.
The Conservatives piled on, calling it an extreme policy by an extreme environmental minister.
We need to invest. We need to build the things that Canadians need to live in the type of country we live in. I think of my own riding, which is 100 kilometers from Vancouver. You need to drive the car.
The minister faced some pointed questions today.
That's not what I said.
Yes, it is.
Wait.
I can read it back to you.
What I have said is that the solutions to our transport challenge pass by many different things, including massive investment in public transit.
Guilbeault said on Monday he was referring to the third link, a proposed multi-billion-dollar tunnel connecting communities to Quebec City. He says Ottawa will not invest in that.
You don't need Highway 4 and 3 in Quebec. You don't need the Troisième Lien. These kinds of projects aren't conducive to actually shifting the travel patterns that we need to see to reducing carbon emissions.
Although the minister attempted some damage control, his comments might intensify opposition to the federal government's other environmental policies. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Home sales in Canada jumped significantly in January, up 22% compared to a year earlier. But the Canadian Real Estate Association says the big increase is likely due to last January's very low sales numbers. CREA also reports that month-over-month sales increased nearly 4% between December and January. The number of homes coming into the market rose by 1.5% month-over-month. The Real Estate Association sees this as a sign that market activity is returning to normal after weakness over the past 2 years. The national average home price is up 7.6% compared to last January at a little more than $659,000. A beautiful February 14th with perfect conditions to celebrate with your Valentine. Your full weather forecast coming up after the break. Parts of Atlantic Canada are getting a much different winter than we are here in Windsor. A major winter snowstorm is pounding parts of the East Coast for the second time in less than 2 weeks. Warnings are in effect for much of Newfoundland and coastal Labrador. Heavy snowfall and high winds have closed schools, universities, and government offices. Up to 60 centimeters is expected in the northeastern part of the island, including the St. John's area, and storm warnings remain in effect in parts of Nova Scotia. 35 centimeters of fresh snow has fallen by this morning in Cape Breton and the Halifax area. Some schools are shut down and delays and cancellations were reported at the Halifax airport. Today's storm comes less than 2 weeks after a previous northeastern dumped up to 150 centimeters on parts of Cape Breton, prompting a local state of emergency. Well, happy Valentine's Day, Victor. I'm loving your tie.
Thank you so much. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm loving the festive colors as well.
Thank you. Thank you. On this day of love, is there a gift that you appreciate getting more than others?
The one gift I appreciate on Valentine's Day getting more than others is all the hugs and kisses from my little Emmy. Oh. And honestly, she's the one who I get them from the most. And that is what always fills my cup.
That is so sweet.
Honestly, but when we're taking a look at the weather that we're expecting, and it comes to my little Emmy, well, it's going to be a cold overnight, which means that your little ones tomorrow and yourselves, when you're getting prepared, how do you prepare for the weather that is coming our way on Thursday? Because we're expecting some rain and we're expecting some snow. Mixed precipitation is in order. But once it's all said and done, we have some more cloudy days ahead. But then with the cloudy days, we're going to see an increase of weather because it's going to be cold tonight. We're expecting Thursday as well to be another cold day into Friday. But as we get into our weekend, we're finally getting back to more of the milder temperatures. Now, looking at Windsor right now, it is 0 degrees. And here's what we're looking at for our long range forecast between now and into the weekend. Now, you can see a lot of the southeastern Ontario here is filled with a lot of that blue, and that's a lot of that Arctic air mass that has worked its way down. Now, as we get into Friday, we talked about this being one of the colder days. Now, in towards Saturday and the weekend, we'll look at that. Sunday, we're already at 6 degrees. So we look at our 3 and 5 day forecast, we'll also see the increase of temperature. Now, here's the weather, and here's what's happening regarding the precipitation. Here's your Thursday. You see it's going to be a mix of the snow, and it's going to be a mix of the rain. Now, that's what was going to be happening for the majority of the day. And by the time you get closer to your commute home, you can see it's going to switch back to that rain. Now, here's the thing about the system that's working its way in. If it moves itself further north, we're going to see a lot more rain. But if it comes and moves itself further down south, well, we're going to be getting more of the snow. But as we get later on into our day from Thursday and towards your overnight, things do start to clear. And as mentioned, you do see the coming of the cloud because we'll be getting an increase of cloud cover as we get into our weekend. Now, a quick peek at our 3 and 5 day forecast. Well, we do have the mixed precipitation in store. And again, there's going to be a bit of extra lake effect coming in on Friday. But when it comes to your Saturday and your Sunday, it'll still be quite cloudy. But one thing to note, Windsor, is you're going to see that we go from +3 to -2. And then eventually by the time we get to Monday, well, Meg, it's going to be as warm as everyone's heart on Valentine's Day because it's getting above seasonal. Over to you, and happy Valentine's Day, Windsor.
Love that. Thanks so much for that, Victor.
Always a pleasure.
The act of teasing is a characteristic often seen in humans, but new research has found another primate who likes to do the same. More on that coming up. The Kansas City Chiefs victory parade was spoiled by violence today. Several people were shot where thousands had gathered to celebrate the team's recent Super Bowl win. It's unclear how many people were hit, but preliminary reports put the number at 1 dead and between 10 and 15 injured. Police rushed to the scene near Union Station with guns drawn and helped some of the victims who were taken away in ambulances. Police in Kansas City say they have detained 2 armed suspects. 800 law enforcement officers were on hand for the event today. Ride-hailing drivers and other gig workers say they're not feeling the love and have staged an international Valentine's Day strike. They're off the job in the UK, US, and Canada. They're calling for better wages and better worker protections. The CBC's Anis Hadari has the story.
Many of the people who drive you around or deliver your food in cars or on bikes say they aren't happy with how much they get paid these days.
You do the math without tips and they're paying you $9, $10, $8 an hour. It's hard work. You're outside in the cold, in all kinds of weather, and they should respect that. I think the company should respect that.
Less pay and more mileage. We have to drive a lot for this one. Like we have to spend 2 hours for one delivery, or like traffic in Toronto. So like 2 hours, I'm driving for $3 or $4.
In many North American cities, drivers protested over concerns like not getting paid when they aren't actively driving. But this economist points out wages aren't as simple as with other jobs.
Uber drivers, they have to pay for their car. They have to pay for their insurance. So perhaps the way in which we use to come up with the minimum wage isn't actually the same formula that we should be using to come up with a minimum wage for these workers. Now, what that formula is, I don't think we have an answer to that yet.
Uber said it believes most of its drivers are satisfied and that it doesn't expect these protests to affect prices or availability. The company's stock price hit a record high today, with increasing returns to shareholders. Also going up, the number of Canadians working for ride-hailing apps. Statistics Canada said 135,000 people did that last year, an increase of more than 48%. Dozens of those people may have been protesting today. As for their wages, no indication they'll be going up yet. Anis Hadari, CBC News, Calgary.
Chimpanzees have to be some of the most entertaining animals to watch, and a new research has further proved that. They found evidence of playful teasing in chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans. The researchers released a video showing several apes teasing each group members. A young chimpanzee is seen teasing an adult at a German zoo by bumping into her, hitting her, then running away while looking for a response. Teasing in humans can start as early as 8 months of age, when babies tease a parent by offering an object, then suddenly withdrawing it. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.